This is a whale. This is a whale. But this is also a whale. So is this one. And this is where all the problems started. Fun fact, I'm left-handed, so I'm not always right, and when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And boy, I was wrong about this aquatic Oreo onslaught, and chances are, so were you. Chances are, you have no clue what a whale actually is, and to explain, we need some lore. If you're watching this, or reacting to this, and you happen to be afraid of whales, you can blame it all on this guy. You see, this guy, thanks for unpausing by the way, this guy had a problem. Pachycetus saw where things were headed on land and decided they wanted none of it. Funny enough, some of them decided that losing legs wasn't worth it and chose to stay on the dry side. And about 50 million some years later, they would become the most infamous animals to grace this channel. Which means, yes, the closest living relative of an African homicide horse that technically can't swim is a group of animals that swim full time. Speaking of which, those that chose waves over caves enjoyed ample resources with less competition. With all those resources plus plenty of plot development, eventually that led to Yup, that is how we got the giant mass merchants that we all know, love, and slightly fear today. But the public school system means there is a lot we and internet backwards hat heads have misunderstood about them, and the biggest thing is what exactly a whale is. Well, here it goes. Cetaceans are mammals that stole the fish's entire flow, and at this point its law should be in the Constitution. Same traits, no relation means convergent evolution. Except manatees and dugongs. They're more related to elephants. There's two types of cetaceans, baleen whales, aka the toothbrush bristles for teeth type, and on the other side are Odontoceti, or toothed whales. You know all this, we talked about this, but let's talk about those toothed whales. Starting with family Zoophidae, I don't know how to pronounce any of this by the way, but Zoophidae, or the beaked whales. They're probably the most underrated and understated whale we'll talk about. I kind of feel bad for them. It's not that we're not curious, it's just that their grocery trips take them to the absolute crotch of the ocean at down to nearly 10,000 feet or 3,048 meters or about 33 Statues of Liberty. They also do really bad in captivity, like as bad as you think a whale would do, they subvert that. They also look like dolphins with the aspect ratio screwed up. You know how some movies will tell you that it's been modified to fit your screen? Nature did this blimp dolphin no such favors. Also, the Cuvier's beaked whale can hold its breath longer than any other mammal, with an all-time record of 3 hours 42 minutes. Which is probably why we know so little about them. 99% of their time is in ocean incognito, so you know seeing a whole pot of them is something special. Now the next family of toothed whales is Physeteridae, or the sperm whale. I also feel bad for them because a misunderstanding got them immortalized being branded after baby batter. You see, what had happened was when whalers back in the day cut up the supersized cetacean, they were met with an organ filled with a chalky substance called spermaceti, which they assumed was just a nectar of nativity. What it actually is this kind of gel that helps amplify the sounds they use for echolocation. It also might help them with their diving, but we're not totally sure, but it's definitely not make a baby broth. Speaking of which, population-paced whales also dive deep. Not as deep as a Cuvier's beaked whale, but deep enough to trigger the devil's ring camera, or far enough to jump scare a deep sea drone. You know what, I get it, because if I was a recovering cetophobic, this would take me right out of remission. But if it helps, there is no documented case of a sperm whale census subtracting a person, even though they could technically do it without touching us. As arguably the loudest animals on Earth, or at least something close, the same clicks they use to hunt could possibly vibrate you to death, if not just knock you out. Which apparently has happened. But they're not all bad. The spawn of Moby is very family oriented and will even host family reunions. And they practice democracy because they make decisions as a group, and sometimes they'll spend over an hour arguing which way to go and how fast to do it. That's mighty considerate for the literal biggest predator on the planet. Oh yeah, there's also the much smaller dwarf sperm whale, not to be confused with the pygmy sperm whale. They're like nature's apology letter for going too far with their giga-sized cousins. They also always look like they're on the verge of a perpetual panic attack, and wouldn't you know, that's exactly how they defend themselves. By unloading a sack filled with reddish-brown liquid as a diversion. It's like a smoke bomb from their anus. Although not sure how effective it is when you proceed to rear-end a rock. Okay, that's two families of toothed whales. Next are Plantanistidae, or the South Asian river dolphins. And you know what, I'm gonna include the South American river dolphins even though they're really not even related. Matter of fact, they're not even dolphins. Oh yeah, the effery is just beginning. This undersea anxiety unicorn is more related to actual dolphins than what folks call river dolphins. But yeah, not a real dolphin, just a beady-eyed snout whale named purely off of vibes. Something something rhyme about conversion evolution, but basically they peeped the fish-eating gharial's headwear and figured they could make that work for them. But yeah, the Amazon river dolphin is an exceptional kind of freaky. Not only does it look like nature's discarded chewing gum got on a diss track, it seems like every time they go viral, it's for some NSFW nonsense. A photographer once caught two river dolphins playing with a Benny anaconda when he realized two things. Their leather pool noodle was dead, and both dolphins' privates were standing at attention. And recently, another river whale made headlines for urinating in the air, with another one following the stream, like Marco Polo but with piss. Scientists were stumped, but of course, I have a half-educated, half-internet guess. You see, dolphins can recognize each other by name. It's actually pretty cool. They can also tell each other apart by sampling their southern showers, so they got that two-factor authentication. And while they might not be blind, with the murky cataract water they live in, they might as well be. So maybe this is just two dolphins using forbidden Face ID before giving them the "how the heck are ya?" Or that could just be their idea of male bonding. Because there's also been a rumor that allied male river dolphins will do questionable things to each other's blowholes. It hasn't been proven, but I wouldn't put it past them. There's even a legend that says river dolphins will morph into human men at night and try to seduce and impregnate human women. Now, I don't want to go too hard on them, mostly because there's a portion of Twitter that genuinely believes I hate dolphins, but also because we've done river dolphins generationally dirty, whether by habitat destruction, pollution, or just killing them to make bedroom pills, if you know what I mean. A moment of silence for the Chinese Baiji, who likely died out in 2002 and hasn't been seen since. And now we finally get to Delphinoidea, the real reason I'm making this video. It's a super family reunion containing the real oceanic dolphins Delphinidae, dolphin understudy the porpoise, a sentient squishmallow, and social anxiety in whale form. And the biggest oceanic dolphin of Delphinidae is the orca. Look, I'm gonna make this quick because you probably already heard this, but every time you've heard me say killer whales aren't actually whales, they're dolphins, it's like me saying humans aren't simians, we're primates. Every dolphin is a whale, but not every whale is a dolphin. And I'm kind of embarrassed it took me that long to realize. Now, to be fair, it is true that killer whales were named less after their homicidal intent and more after what they were seen doing to other whales. And while it is well documented what orcas do to the world around them, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't actually think orcas are evil. In fact, I'll prove it. So this camera crew was documenting a group of zebras hunting, and all was good until the big mama of the group noticed a diver. She approached a completely defenseless and totally exposed man and examined him, almost like she was considering what the next move was. The next move was a 4-ton high contrast ceticide offering him a half-eaten stingray, even gesturing towards it at the diver. She even picked it up and tried to basically hand it over to him like he was an anorexic orca. But later on, the same crew would find a much bigger bull male orca trapped in fishing lines and on the verge of drowning. Now this was different. This was a scared, panicking juggernaut that could easily murk anyone that got close. For reference, a bull elephant in the same situation would likely kick your chest in. The divers would make the gamble of cutting him free while very much in the Giga Guppy's hitbox. He didn't lash out, he didn't resist. The male stood still, almost like he understood what was happening. And this the same animal that allegedly won't give moose a pass. You've probably heard that a wild orca has never turned a human into a headline, and it's probably because that's just not their culture. Orcas have a genuine culture and different languages, and when I say languages, orcas in New Zealand have a different accent from those in Norway. They also have trends too. Like trends, like the same ones we do. Back in the ancient time of the 1980s, a trend started where folks were wearing dead salmon as hats. Except it was started by a lady orca in the Cape pod of British Columbia. The salmon sporting trend spread to even other pods, but like all fads, it suddenly fell off, never to be seen again. Yeah, that was a lie. In 2019, the salmon spectacle spun the block, this time with a young male, proving that like baggy clothing and iPhone obsolescence, some trends never die. And if I had a nickel for every time an orca went viral for its headwear, I'd have 2 more nickels than I woke up with. But that second nickel would be a lot more bittersweet. A mother orca telequa was observed carrying her past tense baby for over 2 weeks and covering over 1,000 miles. It's not crazy that she did it. It's how long she refused to let go. What's crazier was that was 2018, and in 2025 she lost another baby and did the exact same coping tactic again. Now if it makes you feel better, the mother known as J35 has had 2 healthy children, one born in 2010 and the other in 2020, but it's always the losses that stay with you. Yeah, orcas feel all the feelings, including empathy, which might surprise you after you've seen one slapshot a seal into orbit. But what looks like playing with their food is actually how grand orcas teach the little ones what to eat and how to eat it. And if that sounds cruel, just remember, if they didn't do that, there'd be a lot more cases of monochrome maniacs murking mankind. Cause the ocean is their omakase, and there's nothing alive that can check an orca. This is a pilot whale. It is the second largest oceanic dolphin. They're also the Ferrari of whales because their hunting involves sea sprinting towards prey at 35-mile-per-hour bursts, which is conceptually terrifying for such a big dolphin. And it might be why pilot whales have the juice to press a pod of killer whales. Gangs of pilot whales have been recorded pulling up to orcas en masse and sending the apex predators packing. There was even a case of problem-seeking pilot whales pulling up on scientists playing the sounds of orcas feeding. Now there's a lot of reasons this could be happening. One is that maybe they eat the same foods and figured they could finesse some calories for themselves, but my personal favorite headcanon is that pilot whales practice the art of offensive self-defense, aka the honey badger method. Be so much of a problem that most predators don't even bother. But one thing, and I really should say this more often, but there are no definites in nature. Pilot whales apparently DoorDash smoke straight to orcas, and orcas have been known to prey on pilot whales, so you'd expect the two to have beef. But a mother orca was also seen adopting an orphan baby pilot whale. So who knows what the pilots be packing? And then there's this guy, another dolphin on steroids that is definitely not an orca. In fact, it's a false killer whale, a jaws paralysis demon, and thalassophobia final boss. There's something about those eyes my spirit doesn't vibe with. It doesn't help that they can roll in groups of 500, 500. And if this demon guppy is your new nightmare, it's cause you don't know them. Falsies have been known to share food and hand fish over to humans for no real reason but goodwill, which actually makes a lot of sense since falsies will seek out other dolphins like bottlenoses as hunting buddies. Sometimes they seek out even more, leading to the hilarious hybrid known as a wolfin. Life finds a way. There's many dolphins in Delphinidae, and this video will look like Endgame if I describe them all. But there's a lot more dolphins than just a star flipper, like the Irrawaddy dolphin. Just look at his face, very cute, very demure. Or the optical illusion hourglass dolphin. But there's more than just dolphins in Delphinoidea. You also got dolphin little brother, the porpoise. The smallest of all whales, with the smallest porpoise being the vaquita, at a modest less than 5 feet long. And yes, their name does mean little cow. And unfortunately, there's less than 10 little cows left in the world. And the last members of Delphinoidea are belugas and narwhals. Belugas are my second favorite cetacean of all time. They're a Bayside Baymax, and they have the same personality. They've been called the canaries of the sea due to the sounds of their symphony. You know, I could never understand why I found this sentient marshmallow so adorable, but I think I figured it out. It's cause they're the only whales that can turn their necks like us. Belugas are a boon from Poseidon with some of the strongest family ties on Earth, and every summer, they'll return to their birthplace to molt, add life, and chop it up with old family members. In Hudson Bay, that means over 50,000 belugas in one place. Speaking of family, the beluga's closest relative is the narwhal. They actually belong to the family Monodontidae, which means one tooth, even though moving on. Narwhals typically have 2 teeth, one in their mouth and the giant ice pick coming out of their head. I say typically because narwhal tusks are a lot like legs. Some people have 2, some have 1, and those that lose the lottery wake up with none. It's not certain what the tusks are for, but I say it's a flex because any question mark in nature usually has to do with we don't know that much about them because I was not kidding about them being anxiety chariots. When narwhals get scared by humans, their hearts actually slow all the way down, even if they're actively trying to flee. Questionable character design, but it means narwhals can legitimately get past tense by a panic attack, which is why if one gets lost, it's basically curtains. One narwhal somehow ended up 600 miles away from his own kind, and with no one to show him how or where to hunt, it looked like this cetacean was finna say goodbye. Until scientists caught him traveling with a pod of, the sea squishies. Belugas and narwhals normally don't even run into each other, so that makes this even more wholesome. And the fact that he survived the winter means Beluga Gang taught the lonely narwhal how to feed. You'll love to see it. And that's all the toothed whales. On the other side are filter-feeding baleen whales, like the biggest animal to ever live, the blue whale, the funny-in-the-face right whale, and my favorite cetacean, the humpback whale. Now I know there's some of you afraid of this giant roving blubber rest stop. I can't imagine. You know, I almost forgot about that. Well, that guy survived because it is physically impossible for a baleen whale to swallow a person. In fact, the biggest animals in nature can barely swallow anything bigger than a grapefruit. So if you ever get caught up in krill and a whale accidentally takes you, expect to be spit out expeditiously. But I think I know where the fear comes from. Whales are big beyond all comprehension, and the idea that something with a pulse can legitimately go band for band with a ship is probably terrifying. But also, they don't have expressions, and a lot of times you can't see their eyes, so it's pretty hard to even imagine them as alive. But what if I told you the fact that they're so big is why you shouldn't be afraid of them? Humpbacks are my favorite cetacean because their generational feud with orcas means they'll interfere with their hunts even if the target isn't their own kind. Even the sounds of an orca hunt can bring the humpback hood to their front door, and humpback whales have been recorded saving seals, sunfish, and even other whales from the barcoded sea assault. But humpbacks have also been recorded saving humans, with one shielding a scientist from an 18-foot tiger shark. At one point, he literally put scientist Non-Hosser on his head and carried her to her boat. And the funny thing is, if we didn't see them do this with other animals, nobody would believe her. But with there being no recorded case of a baleen whale purposely attacking a human, they're much more likely to try to save your life than threaten it. Also, they seem to be aware of how much smaller everything is around them. Baleen whales have giant fins often encrusted with sharp barnacles. In theory, they could shred you something nasty if a whale backfins you. But there have also been reports of whales using those fins to gently nudge divers without injuring them, like in the tiger shark story. My theory is they're so big and so intelligent that Baleen Brigade has no real reason for pointless aggression. Really, they're just giant salt puppies. And I am not advising you to go touch a whale, but gray whales are famous for being the friendliest, and in some places will curiously approach boats and even show off their babies to people. But yeah, whales are chill like that, and if you're still not convinced, I'm more than willing to stand on it. If this video gets to 250,000 likes, I will go out into the ocean and swim with a whale. Why so high? Well, one problem. I can't swim. I mean, I can get from A to B, but I'm not great at it. Definitely not enough to be in the open ocean. Also, I can't tread water and I physically can't float. I've tried, it ain't happened. But if we hit the goal, I will learn how to swim well enough to make eye contact with a whale. Cause hot take, whales and elephants might just be the only animals on the planet where you can make eye contact with them and there's a genuine mutual understanding of intelligence. But that's just me. Why didn't I say apes? Well, you make eye contact with a chimp and you tell me how that goes. You know, I'll probably do it anyway, but after 250,000, it becomes a promise, and I'll do it in a year's time. That's the challenge, but until then, drink water, hug your mother, please don't hate dolphins, I don't even hate dolphins, and I'ma see y'all in the next one. You get it? Cause this, y'all have a good one.